Hello, my friends. I am so excited that we're going to be hosting Khadijah today. We are a couple minutes late, so thank you for being patient with us. One of our favorite analogies is like a leaf down a stream. We just flow with it and we just keep it going. So I hope that you are excited today. I'm really psyched to talk to Khadijah from the Busy Brushes, and it's going to be amazing. She's got so many great things to share and really has a lot of awesome information for us. So while we are waiting for Khadijah to join the IG Live, if anyone wants to drop in where they're from, how their day was, a little emoji, I always like to check in and see who we have here today watching the live. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sarah Krajewski. I am an elementary art educator as well as a writer and content creator for the Art of Education University. So today it's nice and sunny here in Wisconsin, and I'm ready to chat to Khadijah, so I'm really excited. She has presented a little bit with the Art of Ed before, so she'll talk just a little bit about that, and then has some great tips on how we can make our learning accessible and awesome for all of our learners, which is incredibly important. So hello to all my friends. We got about 20 friends in here today. I see some of my fellow writers in the chat, some other awesome art teachers from across the land. All right, let's get Khadijah in here. Fingers crossed, drum roll. Hello, sweet friend. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, good. We're so excited you're here today, Khadijah. I'm glad you could join us. Take a deep breath.
Ooh, yes.
Well, we are going to get started right away because hopefully a lot of people know who you are. I know you've done some things with the Art of Ed before, but can you just give us a little background on who you are, where you teach, what kind of art you love, and just tell us a little bit about you.
Yes. Well, my name is Khadijah Latimer, of course, and I actually teach in upstate South Carolina, and I'm split right now between two schools. So I teach at Wright Elementary School, kindergarten through fifth grade there, and then at Belton Elementary School, I am third through fifth, so upper elementary.
Got it.
I really am enjoying elementary school. That's the only experience I have right now. I've been teaching there since I got out of college. But as far as my personal artwork goes and what I like to do, I really have enjoyed doing digital artwork, drawing on iPad and things like that, which is weird because in college I hated it, but I love it now. So you always have to be patient.
Right, and it wasn't the same. I feel like in college it wasn't like literally a tablet. I mean, I don't know how long you've been out of college, but for me, digital art was way different.
Yes.
So it's like a little bit easier to take just the iPad and then say there's all your content out there, and you have such amazing things like your posters, your resources, everything is beautifully created. So I can see why you love that. I heard your joke before about how I think you said your husband said that like if your house was on fire, you would take your iPad, which I respect. I feel like that's legit. I love it. Awesome. And how long have you been teaching, Khadijah?
This will be my fourth year. So
awesome.
Yeah, I'm still new, but I have a little bit of experience.
Yeah, of course. You got some stuff under your belt. And I mean, I feel like if anybody can survive and go in with a positive attitude for this year, like you are set up for multiple years of success. So you're going to be good. Well, I was telling everybody in the chat a little bit about how you've presented before with the Art of Education University, and just a little bit about like the content that you share and the things that you create. Can you tell us some of the presentations that you've done before, and maybe a couple like hints and tricks from it, because they're pretty good topics.
Yes. Well, the very first time I presented on classroom management for bigger classes. At the time, I had really huge classes before the pandemic, so I had to get kind of creative with classroom management. So just making sure that, I had jobs that the kids actually wanted to do and really want to work hard towards. And also building those relationships. Even if you have 30 kids in the classroom, you still have to find time to go around the room and talk to each one of the kids,
Yes.
In college, they always taught us, that classroom management was something that you had to do. And it was like this magical thing that you just had to figure out on your own. And it was all about discipline. But really, it's about making relationships with the kids too, because if you have a relationship with them and they make a mistake, they're more likely to listen to you and, respect what you have to say versus just fussing all the time. So
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
I love doing that one. And then just, I guess that was over the summer. Yes, I did one on the Procreate app, which of course I already kind of mentioned how I like to draw digitally. So I talked about how that's been a good thing for me in the classroom because I'm able to make my own worksheets. I'm able to make my own posters, and I'm able to actually take time to draw for myself. I
Yeah.
know my first year teaching, I didn't enjoy it as much because I wasn't making art for myself. So it was kind of disconnected because I was teaching everybody else, but I wasn't practicing it myself. So that was another really cool thing that I presented on.
Absolutely. And I loved your presentation. I just love watching people draw on the iPad too. Like watching people in Procreate, I learned just little tips and tricks about how they're creating things like within the app. Can you give us any, so I would say your iPad is like primarily how you like to create both resources, but also like your own personal work. Can you tell us like maybe one of your favorite, like I'm trying to think of what it is, like actions or whatever in Procreate, because everybody's like, how do you do stuff? What are the tricks? And somebody told me about like the 2-tap undo or like the drag and fill. Like give us like one little thing that was a game changer for you.
I would say I really like that, I can draw a shape and hold it on the screen and it will snap to the perfect shape. So I can just draw like a wonky circle, and if I hold the pen down, it'll make it into a perfect circle. So I don't have to spend my time.
I love it, which is especially important like for art when we're trying to draw like color wheels or whatever, and you're like, I need a perfect circle, and I have to like, that one took me an embarrassing amount of time to learn. Perfect. Okay. And then I know you were talking about your classroom management strategies and when you were presenting on that, and that like those jobs were really important. What does that look like right now? Like, are you still able to have kids in your classroom, and how are you kind of managing like the management of what you typically do?
That's a great question. It definitely does look different now. Last year, I did job cards. And so when I met my students out in the hallway, that's when I chose my jobs because I only looked for people who were following hallway expectations. Well, this year, it's a little bit different because I have to greet them in the classroom and we have to pass out hand sanitizer first before we do anything. So, and I'll have 30 minutes of art this year versus 45. So we don't have any time,
right? Like,
to play. So, what I've been doing is, it looks a little different now. I don't have the cards, so I don't have people, touching the same cards over and over and over again. I just pick at the beginning of class. And when they help, they have to have hand sanitizer first. They have to walk around with their mask. And I tell them, if you're doing a job, you can't talk. Just pass out your things. And we're going back to our seats. So it's not as fun. But I still am happy that the kids are able to help a little bit, even if it's something as simple as that. Because it'd be really hard for me to do all that in 30 minutes.
Absolutely. It's like you only have so many arms and actions. And I think too, hopefully the kids, they're a little bit more like stuck and they're a little more still this year. So hopefully the fact that like if you have a job you can't talk but it means you get to get up, like there's clearly some pros from it, and those helpers that just really love to help. So I love that you're still giving them a chance to do that even though it looks different. I think that's perfect. Yes. So I was really excited to also chat with you about how you're part of the group, the Anti-Racist Art Teachers. And I would love to chat about maybe how you began, kind of your connection with them, as well as why that group exists. Can you give us a little bit of background about it for those of us that do not know about it?
Yes. Well, it started out with Paula Lee's. She actually created the group. She started out alone. It basically started out, during the time of the pandemic when we all were quarantined. And, she spoke to us about how she would get on these art teacher Facebook groups and she would realize, that the conversations on, racial equality or any type of social justice issues, the tone instantly changed on the site. And she felt like a lot of the times it wasn't because, these people are bad people, that maybe they were just misinformed. And so she started out by just creating a lot of resources for people to look into, and she began to share them with people, and she realized, this is a lot of work to do alone. So she started to invite other people into the group. So Francesca Levy was one of the first people, and Nyla Khan, she introduced her into the group as well. And before she knew it, more and more of us were being introduced into the group, because she noticed that there are actually other people out there who have an interest in this topic. So that's how I think it's 7 or 8 of us now, all of us got into the group, and we've been working together trying to find as many resources as we can to share with people. So I'm happy that she was able to start that and that she even asked me to join. So all of them are super awesome. None of us have all the answers, but we're being intentional about trying our best,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the main wonderful things about teachers and art teachers is that they're so open to sharing, but that we hopefully can model these kinds of conversations and the ways to work with each other so that we can really make some impactful differences for our students. And I really love how you were chatting about okay, so Paula, really was trying to compile these resources, and then it kind of continued to grow. And the hope is that we can introduce these conversations and the awesome resources that are being made by that team to a lot of people. So yes. I know right now, in fact, I have the amazing posters right now, the elements of art that are talking about color and form, but with sort of more of a social justice statement, or this really powerful, beautiful statement about how we're accepting and loving of all people of the world. Right. And those are so wonderfully designed. So that's really awesome. But can you tell us a little bit more about kind of just the general goal or mission statement too? Because all of the educators you listed are amazing. If anybody is not following right now, you guys, I believe, put together a community Instagram, so you can follow can you tell me the tag for it?
It is at Anti-Racist Art Teachers.
Beautiful. And that's where you can find all of the content that they're sharing, as well as links to your website. But can you tell us just a little bit more about the mission and why it is so important to share that so that we can support all of our students?
Yes, well, it's really important because I think it allows us for a moment to kind of think about being intentional about what we introduce to students in the classroom. I always like to think back to when I was in the classroom, specifically in art class. We always learned about the classic artists, and all of them looked exactly the same. Most of them came from the same type of background, so there was zero diversity. Right. The only time I was ever introduced to a different artist, who didn't look like those men, was probably Frida Kahlo. And it rarely ever went past that. Right. So it's just about, introducing diversity into the classroom with what you teach. And even if some people believe that, social justice issues or racial inequality issues, if they don't really know how to speak about that, they can realize that, these are topics we can talk about at the elementary level, the middle school level, or the high school level. We just have to do it on the level of the kid. Right. So there are resources out there now. So it's just about it's being very intentional about what you introduce in your classroom, and also being cognizant of, am I appropriating anything? Be careful about that as well. So it's just sharing information out there for teachers to kind of really take a moment and step back. Like I said, all of us don't have the answers. We're not claiming that we're perfect and we have all the answers, but again, I've said this word 1,000 times, just being intentional about what you introduce into your classroom and being willing to learn, Yeah. And that's even for us, we're willing to learn. We're willing to be open-minded because we've all made mistakes, Yes. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know if that's really accurate, so I better not, introduce that to the entire classroom before I check on it.
Right, so, right. I think that's perfectly said. And I think, if anything, really trying to drive home that point about being intentional and kind of knowing where things are coming from. If you're just going to introduce something and then maybe not have a conversation about it, that can't be as nearly as powerful as talking to your students about either, different races of artists or art educators or, different styles of artwork. And it's so important to be able to talk about that. And I know some of our past chats, we've been chatting with guidance counselors and some, another art educator who focuses on therapeutic art education. And there's so many ways to connect with other people. So if you're a little bit nervous, okay, I don't really know how to broach this topic, but so many people the anti-racist art teachers are already creating resources for us, already creating a home for these resources to live. And then I believe there's even like a tab on cultural appropriation, like for you to sort of check yourself, you know, and to really look and see, okay, is this appropriate? And then, you know, I really would imagine that any of these art educators, or even like, you know, a fellow art educator would happily have a conversation about it to say, like, do you think this is okay? Do you think this isn't? And try to be as open and understanding to each other so that we can support all of our students and give them the representation that everyone needs, right?
Yes, and I just, it's just so mind-blowing that, you know, Paula Liz took out the time to do this, because I remember, you know, my first year teaching, I wanted to do something like that. I wanted to make sure that I'm introducing diverse artists, and that I'm, you know, making sure that I'm representing a certain culture, or teaching a certain culture a certain way.
Right.
You know, but I didn't know where to start. You know, I just would Google Black artists or Asian artists, or, you know.
Yeah, it's so overwhelming. Yeah.
Yeah, and find what I could find. But now that there's something out there that you literally just go to the site, you know, if you want to inform yourself or teach yourself about anything, you can do that. If you're looking for a certain type of artist, you can do that. So I think it's really awesome that that's out there. So I'm glad you brought up the fact that, you know, this is also a community thing.
Yeah.
So it's going to bring everybody together, and, you know, we don't have to be afraid to ask questions.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely. And I think if anything, because I know Janet was just saying being vulnerable to ask too. So, you know, understanding that, like you had mentioned before, we're not all perfect, we're all learning, and that's what makes everyone beautiful, is the fact that our students are the same way, right?
Right.
They don't know the answers, they don't know the perfect way to have a conversation. So modeling that and saying, okay, I don't really know how to like introduce this topic, or introduce, you know, this artist. What would be a good way to start? And then knowing that, like, if we stumble along the way, it's only going to make us stronger to learn. So I think that's really important to remind us of too.
Right.
And then, Khadijah, I also saw Megan mention that these practices are connected to the National Core Arts Standards. So she says diverse artists plus diverse perspectives, and a variety is the National Core Arts Standards. And just reminding us that this isn't like it shouldn't be like a new thing, right? It's not this new way of thinking, but instead it's kind of checking yourself and saying, maybe you were already talking about some artists, but how are you really connecting your students to that conversation, or maybe diversifying your curriculum more? And I think you are such a great resource, along with those other amazing art educators, that it would be a shame to not use you as a resource.
And I'm so glad that she brought that up about the standards too, because, you know, we, all of us in the Anti-Racist Art Teachers group, we've had a conversation in the past about, you know, people being reluctant to speak out about these things in their classroom because they're afraid of the backlash that they might get. And, you know, we had a conversation about the fact that these things are covered under our standards.
Yes.
You know, so no, I would be really surprised if there ever came a situation where you introduce these things in the classroom on the level of the child, and you got backlash, and you say, well, this is a part of what I am supposed to teach, and you continue to get in trouble, you know, like
absolutely
this is our job, you know, this is in our standards. And so, you know, that's a great point to bring up.
And that's also, I mean, art teachers have had to advocate for their position for so long, but the decisions that we make too are part of that, and intentionally, right? Intentionally, you know, choosing your artists, choosing projects, choosing you know, choice-based options, things that you're going to teach your students have to be on purpose, and it's under this umbrella of our curriculum, so it gives us that protection to say, this is important for our students to know, and here's how I'm going to introduce it to them in this safe way. So I think that's a great reminder too. So speaking to that, can you give us some hints? Because I know I love sort of tangible, like, ooh, that would be a fun lesson idea. Ooh, that'd be a great question to ask my students if you've got more choice, or whatever your art classroom or cart or whatever it might look like. Can you tell us a couple like projects or themes or ideas specifically related to, you know, social justice or anti-racism, or kind of starting these conversations that you really love doing with your students?
Yes, definitely. So again, like I said, I myself, I've only been teaching for 4 years, so I'm still learning how to do this more in my classroom. But I have been, you know, as I said, again, intentional about artists that I introduce. So just, you know, we're trying to figure out ways to introduce artists that are diverse, you know, people
Mm-hmm.
who look different, people who the students have never seen before, talking about different cultures, because I know a lot of times at the elementary level, their mind is only what they see in their town.
Yes,
So there's a
yes.
whole world out there. So doing that. And then one thing I really like to do when I introduce diverse artists, I like to kind of do like a mashup. So I
Mm-hmm.
may have, so like right now I'm doing a lesson with fifth grade, and then this is Entangle lesson, and we're talking about Derek Adams. And then I'm going to mash up. I just got this idea earlier today when we were working.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, you know, something, you know, that I can talk about two different artists. I only have
Yeah.
30 minutes, you know, and I'm introducing two artists in one lesson. So we're getting more artists in, you know, as well as, you know, introducing them to people who may not look like them, especially where I teach, because, you know, we don't have like a super diverse, you know, group of students. And then children's books. I always say, you know, now there are so many children's books out there that talk about these things. And it
Yes.
may not say, you know, this book is about social justice, but
Right.
when you read it and you talk about it, it does cover that topic. So I know for me, All Are Welcome is a
Mm-hmm.
really good book to read. I think it's The Skin I'm In.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it. There are a lot of, I've even found a couple today when I was just Googling a few, you know, that I wanted to talk about, but there's so many books out there. Now, I know when I was a kid, those books did not exist, you know.
Right.
We never talked about it, but now there's so many books that are on like a child's level. I've even found some books like literally for infants, you know.
I
So,
love it. Yes. Yeah.
you know, they don't understand it yet, you know, but after a while, when they start flipping through the pages and they see different people and, you know, you introduce them to new words, it's still a learning opportunity. So there's so many different things that you can do.
Absolutely.
I could go on and on and on,
I,
but
I love it. I love it. And I think I know a few months ago maybe we had an article about like 100 children's books to start, you know, about diversity and inclusive curriculum. So maybe we'll repost that, because that would be a really awesome reminder about literally 100 books. There's so many in there, and that's not even like an you know, all-encompassing list.
no.
And I love too, Khadijah, how you were talking about the fact that so you're trying to do a mashup of multiple artists, or you'll really introduce lots of artists. And I think that's the perfect way to engage students too, because like you were mentioning, when you were in elementary school, if you're, you know, talking about an old, you know, dead white master painter or whatever, and it's not engaging to you. But if that art educator were to show, okay, here's 3 different artists that are working today, that you can see their current Instagram, or you can see their website of what they're working on, and here's how they've kind of taken that inspiration from an artist that worked 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, how much more engaging is that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Nyla,
Yeah.
we were actually talking about that one day in the group, and, you know, Nyla brought that up. She was like, you can still talk about,
Yes.
you know, these people from, you
Sure.
know, eons ago, and
Yeah.
relate them to people of today, you know, and have a conversation about, you know, they were inspired by these people, but they're doing their own thing. They look
Right.
totally different. You know, they have the same ideas, but they do them in a different way. And
Exactly.
I found that kids are really interested in people who are actually still alive today.
They sure are.
Today. So they're like, oh, that person has an Instagram? And they'll go home and ask their parents to look it up, you know?
Yes.
So
I know. Surprising that they would want to know if the person was alive. But like, and then sometimes you can try, you know, messaging the artist or send them an email. You never know. They maybe will send you something back, or you can find a really cool like current video of them working. It's just, there's so much more engaging content that you could, again, relate to an older artist if you would like, but you just really don't need to stop there. And I think you brought up a great point of reminding us that that's how we can connect with all of our students, is by helping to find those little outlets where we can say, oh, remember how you were inspired by this artist? Well, here's what it looks like. And is that not what we're essentially teaching them to do as artists too, right?
Yeah, that's right.
You know, is they're you know, they want to take an idea and then take it a little bit of a step further, and that's what a modern artist would be doing with their you know, with that kind of inspiration. I know I see Megan shared the link to that 100 children's books about diversity and inclusion. So that is in the chat now. And if not, you can, of course, go search on the website, or we'll try to share that in the story. And then I love her question, are they dead? Such a common question, which is true.
It is. They ask all the time.
And you're like, yes, they are. Like 200 years ago. Like, it's not, I don't know. We know we lose them a little bit when it's like all you have for a portrait is a black and white picture of the artist, right?
But it's so interesting too that they even think to ask that question. So it makes me wonder, like, why do they want to know? Are they wondering if that person is still creating, or
maybe? I mean, maybe. I guess that could be a follow-up question next time. You know, it's like, why do you want to know? Can you tell based on their art? Does it look like that it's older art? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So I guess continuing that conversation about how to support our students and support each other, can you give us a couple just hints or reminders about how you live your life as an educator, about how we can best support our students with like a positive, supportive morale? What do you have for us?
I would definitely say, you know, especially during all this craziness that's going on right now, I think it's important for us to be very empathetic with one another. Mm-hmm. And it can be hard to do, you know, we're in the hustle and bustle, you know, of our life during school. We got 30-minute classes and we're just trying to pump out the day. You know, it's important for us to take out the time to say, hey, you know, this person seems to be having a bad day, or they may need an ear, you know, someone to listen to them. I think being empathetic goes a long way with the teachers and the students, and, you know, just being open-minded, and just being a kind person. You know, it's so easy to say, you know, take your time to be kind. But honestly, throughout the day, sometimes you might forget to be kind because you just you have a whole list of things you need to do. And so, you know, like I can't add one more thing. And I know that sounds insane, but it is true. Sometimes we just get so caught up in our life that we don't take out the time to think about how we might be making someone feel. I've even had moments, you know, while I'm teaching, I'm like, oh, okay, we can't do that right now. I'm doing something else. I don't have enough time. And, you know, I reflect and I think, oh, wow, like I need to go back and apologize and, you know, take time to listen to that student. But it happens to us. So, again, being intentional about being kind and, you know, being, you know, just a good person. And I know that's so cliche to say, but it really does go a long way.
Absolutely.
It really does.
Yeah, well, I can feel that from you, and I can sense that from you, Khadijah, because every time I see you in your classroom or I've chatted with you, it's always such a ray of positivity. And I know it's not always like that, and it doesn't mean that it's not hard at times, but I think it's important to bring that to light, is to remind us that all you have to do is try to be kind. And maybe, like, you know how you have your to-do list of, like, I gotta hang this, I gotta mat this, I gotta do whatever. Maybe just, like, writing like, part of our character traits on there, like, okay, today, like, do a check. Am I being, like, nice today? Like, that's
I mean, seriously, sometimes you might have to do that. Just so I'm a checklist person, so
same. I know it feels good to cross it off. So end of the day, was I kind? Cross it off. Yes.
I love it.
I love it. Okay, well, my last question, I was wondering what you are looking forward to this year, kind of going down that positivity train. What are you excited about and looking forward to amidst the craziness?
So many things. Every year I'm always excited to come up with new lessons to share with people. I know it sounds weird, but I love coming up with new lessons. Like, it's just so fun to take out the time to research things and say, oh, we can do this. So coming up with new lessons, certainly, and also introducing my students to some new art materials they never used before. So I'm kind of scared, but I was thinking about doing paper mache at some point. I might back out. I don't know. I have to think about it.
Do it. But don't hurt yourself.
The copper foil, I've purchased some, but it's always been in the back of my supply closet, and I just never touched it. So, you know, just introducing some new things to the kids. And I am pregnant, so I'm having my kid in December. And that's
congratulations.
Totally different.
Yes.
So, you know, I'm the whole motherhood thing. So we're going to see how that goes as well.
Yes. Well, and again, congratulations, and give yourself some grace to be kind to yourself, because as much as you're an overachiever and you want to stay busy, you have to take care of yourself and be kind to yourself. So make sure you remember that along with everyone else that's watching. It's really important to prioritize that first before anything else.
Yes, absolutely. You are absolutely right.
Awesome. Well, Khadijah, can you tell us your Instagram handle so anyone that wants to follow you, if they're not already, can follow you there?
Yes, my Instagram handle is @thebusybrushes here on Instagram.
Beautiful. And you can, I believe you've got links to your Teachers Pick Teachers for all your beautiful resources and things like that too, so that we can go from there. And I know we chatted, the other Instagram handle we mentioned was @anti-racist art teachers, correct?
Yes, and on that site, the 7 people that page is following, the anti-racist art teachers, those are all the people who are working on that, site. So if you also want to follow those people, that would be awesome.
Yes, a lot of amazing art educators. We are filled with so many amazing people who are willing to share. So thank you so much for being on our chat today, Khadijah. I hope you can relax tonight, take a deep breath, and be ready for the next day with positive energy.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Well, have a good night. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.